Evening, everybody. Welcome to Yin Yang the podcast for our evening. This is going to be our virtual book reading. So we will have some people come in and out. Remember, if you want to make comments, you need to do it on either Riverside or Facebook. We are not live on TikTok tonight. Things will be uploaded to TikTok later so that everyone can see it. If you run into any questions, please keep in mind I will keep the live on comments on, and I'll be monitoring those so I can answer as we go. We have a special guest list tonight who's Toya, who will be reading from her book also. And then if anyone runs into questions, all of Toya's information about her book is going to be posted on the Yin Yang page first thing tomorrow morning so that everyone can access and purchase a copy of her book along with Sheena's book and my books. So you can see all of those blasts out tomorrow morning on Yin Yang the podcast just to make sure. And should we have any other special guests tonight, then those also will be shared onto the page tomorrow so that you can purchase their books and show support. It looks like we already got a couple of people watching us tonight. So welcome in Christina and Inoa. Thank you for showing us the support. We're going to have a few more people pop on as we get started. And we are live across the board now. So I'm going to attempt to play our disclosure as we always try to do, but we all know how Riverside likes that. So we're going to see if it plays
Yin
today.
Yang the podcast does not own rights to any background music or noise you may hear. This podcast is completely opinion-based and may include adult content, adult language, and verbiage not suitable for any underage viewers. Information found in this podcast may not contain exact accuracy as it is opinion-based. Please listen at your own risk.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and start this evening with my books, and then we're going to move on to Toya and then to Sheena. In between, if someone else jumps on, they will go after Toya. So I'm going to start off so that Toya kind of knows our flow that we're going to do tonight. And I'm going to start with The Art of Healing. So this was my second book. And for those who want to know, I painted this. This is my painting. It made me feel creative. So this was my second book. This was a book that was written after I walked away from a very toxic, unhealthy relationship. For me, it was the relationship. I know y'all have heard me talk about the father of my daughter. It's that relationship that I walked away from that inspired this book. This book was actually dedicated to my stepson and ex-husband. So it was one of those things where it was like, now it's kind of bittersweet. My stepson will always be my stepson, but my ex-husband is no longer existent in my brain for the best. So I guess it could kind of be a book about him too. So I'm going to start with kind of a preface about what the poem is. And then I'll go ahead and read the poem. So if I'm starting in here, this would be in my first chapter. And this poem is called All for a Ring. The poem is about, like, as young girls to young ladies and to women, we're all taught subliminally to chase a ring our entire lives. And I don't know if society knows that they're teaching us that, but it is what we're taught. And being in that mindset your entire life and then meeting someone who at one point or another you would feel would be a great husband or great father allows us to blind ourselves to the reality of the things that we are doing. We've all been there. We've all broken down to a point where we allowed someone around us to hurt us so badly and continued to allow them to do it because we saw past, the present, and into the future. So we only want happiness with that person. However, things never play out that way, do they? So I'm going to go ahead and start with this first poem. It's called All for a Ring. And again, just remember that all of our podcasts end up on explicit content, usually because of Sheena. However, my poems might take us there. So I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure out a way to sit with my book that I don't look like I'm crazy.
It's not me tonight.
Yet. It's not Sheena yet. So, All for a Ring. You laid with so many others. I stood strong next to you. I thought we were happy, but the entire city knew. I was more than naive, so much more than blind. You broke me down emotionally and built me up with why you're mine. You promised me a future. You helped me plan a life. I honestly believed that someday I'd be your wife. I was brainwashed with the mentality that you could do no wrong. You swore everything was real each time you strung me along. You dangled a future in front of me, promises of marriage and kids. I always wanted only that, so every time I just give in. The things that I accepted and the things that I look past reminds me daily as my mind runs how you always put me last. All the other women, they even knew my name. Not that you could hide it with my picture in that frame. The trashy women you put above me when you knew my heart wouldn't roam, saying how pure she was as she laid inside our home. The fights would get so bad, the times you threw women in my face. One moment I would never compare, and the next I was your saving grace. I gave the better part of me to you, and I wasted all that trust. And my heart had no comparison to the affair that you had with lust. Breakup to makeup, all those lonely nights. I pretended I didn't notice being ignored just to avoid another fight. I just wanted you to love me the way that I loved you. You kept asking me to hang in there. You'd be ready to settle down soon. I kept believing that someday you would just wake up, acknowledge the good woman in front of you who gave you all her love. Instead of just releasing me, you convinced me to stay. I racked my brain almost daily trying to figure out how I let it get this way. You fed me the insecurities. You raped me of my trust. You blinded me with emotional pain and threw away love for lust. I let you steal away my confidence. I allowed you to break me down. You took me out of character, and I allowed you to steal my crown. You made me feel I wasn't good enough. You turned me into a bitch. Each time you made the tears fall, I knew who you were with. No matter the words that you spoke, my mind knew it wouldn't be long. But I loved you so much, my heart ignored each sad love song. The pain was so chilling, it hurt more with you. The pain was so chilling, it hurt more with each breath. I couldn't run from the hurt because it's all that I had left. I held on to it so long that recovery seemed so far. I still watch all the people who helped build that invisible scar. My life is so consumed with people who run. No matter how far, I feel like they've won. I can't find my peace. I'm scared of my own heart. Trust is just a word and manipulation just an art. The crazy is in my mind. My soul is more than bruised. All these crazy emotions are wrapped up in every single I love you. So that's the first poem that I'm reading from this book. For those of you that don't know, throughout this relationship, and I think a lot of our followers actually already know this, I gave birth to a little girl that didn't make it. So, and I say that to say, you know, those that buy this book are going to see kind of how that played out. So my book does come with a trigger warning. The Art of Healing does. Because the loss of our daughter was kind of the downfall of our relationship. And yeah. So with the next poem for this book, it's kind of the point in our relationship where I started to realize it was never going to work. But the hardest part in any relationship, especially a toxic one like that, is as people, and I know this from psychology class, y'all. I didn't just make up the items in this book. I did heavy research with my education. So, you know, the worst feeling in that kind of relationship is the fact that you feel like you can't escape, no matter how bad it is, no matter what's going on. You know, I allowed this man to stand in my face and call me a baby murderer for months before I was brave enough to finally let go. So with that being said, you know, there's not, y'all, I just lost my page, just so you know. But Hold on, I'm almost there, y'all. Okay. So this poem is called You Created. And this is why I said we'd probably go explicit. But I forgot that I had the B word in the last poem too. So the story I'm about to reveal comes from phenomenal pain. A desperate attempt at forcing someone to love me because all I wanted was to hold his last name. But there comes a time when you have to remember that you have to put yourself first. You have to acknowledge the pain at hand, and you have to remember your worth. I can't put all the blame on him, as I made my choice to stay, knowing about the multiple women, knowing the games he would play. Let's flash back to the beginning. I can't even say we were happy then. The struggle in life was in front of us. We both decided we wouldn't let it win. We got caught up in the day-to-day. We didn't take real time for us. I noticed things weren't right when all we did was make up and then fuss. After I gave birth and then our daughter passed, I was left to grieve alone as you sought comforts chasing ass. His side chick was so young. She was so naive. He fed her words all women need, so she gave him her virginity. She chose to make him her world. She never needed to know more than you cared. Even as I told her the deal, cross you she'd never dare. I watched you fall in love with another woman. I listened as you put me down. I let you call me a baby murderer. I made the mistake of taking off my crown. I allowed the mental anguish. I expected the emotional abuse. Manipulation wasn't something I ignored, but it's all that I got from you. She wasn't just some girl you ran through. She was able to get your heart. I knew once you stepped back farther that more was coming apart. I never came first to you. Everything else was placed before me. Trips around town, those vacations I didn't see. You were out having more babies while I was grieving the loss of mine. There's a wound that doesn't heal no matter how much time. You emotionally manipulated me to a point that I thought I had no one. I didn't know how to break free because my heart wouldn't let me run. I gave you everything you wanted. Your life was oh so grand. But you traded me in time and time again because you know that you can. It was never about Amanda. Sometimes I didn't know if to you I exist. Breakdown after breakdown, I held words to avoid your fist. I walked on eggshells, physically afraid to go too far. The last night that I saw you, fear and reality met subpar. I can't forgive the cheating. I can't forgive the babies that were made. I can't forget how much you hurt me, and I can't forget you made me this way. I can't forget your hand around my throat. I can't forget how angry you were. I can't forget begging I'm sorry, when you let anger hit home turf. I can't forget that all I ever wanted was to make a good mom and wife. I can't forget the low blow 2 words took as you walked out of my life. I can't forget having to tell my family how your hands were placed on me. I can't forget how dumb I felt while talking to the police. I can't forget how lonely I was in a relationship with you. I can't forget how much you didn't appreciate me until I found out the truth. I can't forget how much I hate you for making me feel I deserve any of this. I can't forgive anything that's going on, so thank you. You've created this bitch. And that is an excerpt from the second part of The Art of Healing. Now, I just want to end this entire book with saying, healing takes courage, and we all have courage, even if we have to dig a little to find it. So that is from my first book, and we're going to set that one aside while I grab my first book really quick, Contradictions. Now, those who know me know that I have been writing since I was 8 years old. Writing is the only way I knew how to release any kind of emotional pain. I didn't grow up in like a bad area or a bad family. However, as a young child, I started experiencing trauma and sexual abuse at the age of 4. So it took me into a very deep, alone corner for the beginning years of my life, which is what drug me over to writing. So Contradictions is a book that Sorry, I have no idea which poem I just marked on here. I've got to go back to the page before. So, and that's one of the biggest things about my book is in my first book, everything is all over the place. It's literally poems from 8. Like you'll see a poem that will sound very childish. And then you'll see a poem that I wrote when I was 25 years old, going through my first real, breakup. So that's kind of what you'll see as you read through my book. And that's all it is poems in this first book, Contradictions. Every once in a while, I may explain something, but that's it. It's not very often that I explain anything. I think the thing I explain the most is I do have a poem in here about Dylan Roof and Black Lives Matter that was really important to me to go out. So we're going to start right here. So young girls crying. I had a very close friend when I was a child that took her own life. It was one of the hardest things I had ever gone through. We were 14 years old, and she took her life over a guy. And so that is where this poem comes from. Rest in peace, Rolanda. I wish her the best. So you place the knife upon your chest and pray the Lord will let you rest. You scream out angry words and cry, knowing you don't want to die. He hurt your soul and tore your pride. He made you want to run and hide. He took the one thing you had away. He played mind games, but still you stayed. When he left, you fell apart. You don't understand why you gave him your heart. She sits in her room and cries all night. Her parents never see her hurt. She hangs her head when she walks, and although she doesn't want to, she still talks. She wonders why no one cares, why no one's there to calm her fears. She cries all night and tries all day to forget his evil ways. It hurts her more not to tell, but still she holds in to pretend all is well. Why didn't anyone hear her scream? She cried all night while you dreamt, therefore you never heard her attempt. She knew she didn't want to go, but no one stopped to let her know that they could help her get over him. So she places a knife upon her chest and prays the Lord will let her rest. She was a young, innocent girl who never thought of dying. Please remember this the next time you hear a young girl's crying. So that is that poem. And then let me jump over to the other one.
That was sad.
Listen, but that's the biggest thing that I want to put out there. Everyone that knows me knows that my future books are all going to be sci-fi. My first 2 books I wrote for me. And the only way that I've ever known how to express my emotions is through writing. And so most of the best of my poems were written from a place of pain. That's how I got over things or dealt with things. It's the only way I know how to heal. Some people say go to therapy, and I believe in therapy. I do. But I couldn't heal from therapy. I needed to heal from letting the world know what I was going through. So, gosh, all of my poems are like sad. I just marked this page. I'm trying to see if it was the next poem or the poem before that I was going to read.
It's okay. And people will know, like, they're not alone, like everybody. So there's someone else out there that's experiencing the pain that they go through, and maybe that support.
See, and that's one of the biggest things. So this next poem is going to hit hard for some people. When I was 13 years old, I attempted suicide. Most of our podcast knows that because I've talked very openly about my mental health struggles throughout the years. And so I wrote a poem, and I wrote this when I was in the mental hospital, refusing to talk to them and wanting to go home. In fact, I wrote this poem and put it on my door, y'all, because I was like, maybe if I hang this poem on the door, they'll leave me alone. They didn't. But anyways. So this was written, of course, during my battle with depression. Anger rages in my eyes, trying my hardest to hold back the cries. Sick of discussing how I feel. Isn't that my business? Why do I have to open up? I'm sick of being positive. Why do I have to talk about how and why I feel how I do? Can't anyone accept I'm me, not you? I like to keep my feelings inside. When I get upset, the feelings hide. I know everyone's just trying to help me, but inside when I'm hurting, I feel like no one can see. I like to be alone because friends are something I don't need. Lord knows I'll learn to trust them and they'll just walk away from me. I usually don't like crying, but it's become part of me. Inside, I feel like I'm dying and no one will leave me be. One thing I've learned in the past few days is people are different and it's hard to change. I don't want to open up. I'm sick of talking about how I feel. I just want to go home, cry in my room, and be left alone. And the reason I wanted to share that poem is if this podcast just happens to hit anyone, I want them to see that I wrote that when I was 13 years old and mentally not stable. I am 38 years old now. You do recover. If you want to, if you're willing to try, you can recover. You know, so that's the biggest thing I want to put out there is your past, yes. But it doesn't mean that's going to be who you are for the rest of your life. So it was really important that I shared that with people. So as we move forward, let me go ahead and just check our chats. Okay, we don't have anything going on right there. We're going to go ahead and move on to Miss Toya, who's going to tell us a little bit about herself, about her book, and she's going to read us an excerpt.
Yes.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Toya, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee. They call it Music City because of the country music and the connections to music making here in the city. And I've been here all my life. I'm one of, I think it's 13 of us children. I have paternal siblings as well as maternal siblings. Both of my biological parents are deceased. My mother died of cancer, and my father was murdered.
Oh, wow.
The book that I'm going to be sharing with you is called Life in Music City, a memoir.
Okay.
I'm excited.
And I'm going to be reading from the beginning years on page 6, as well as Leaving the Nest on page 27.
Okay.
The beginning years. Born on November 13, 1975, I recall living with my maternal grandparents, maternal aunt, maternal cousin, and mother in John Henry Hale homes in Midtown Nashville, Tennessee. My cousin Bertha and I were close and spent time together growing up in the loving arms of our grandparents, George and Florence. Granddaddy had a huge trash can filled with candies Bertha and I occasionally loved to grab whenever we could not get a bite out of Anthony's cheeseburger from Fat Benny's restaurant. A red wagon was the choice toy for us, and we took rides around the complex without feeling unsafe or in danger of harm or violence. These were the days to remember. When it was time for Mother and me to leave, we moved to an apartment within walking distance from Head Middle School, where I attended kindergarten. I walked to and from school with Anthony when we lived with Granddaddy and Grandmama. But after moving practically across the street from the school, I walked alone. Out of the loving arms of my maternal family, I had to get used to being alone in so many instances, and leading up to the abuse by my father, I left the state of innocence at such an early stage of childhood development. By the time Mother, my little brother Johnny, and I moved to Cumberland View Apartments on Clarksville Pike, Daddy and I spent time together in his apartment alone. It was here the abuse took place and remained covered up until I revealed it at the age of 13 while under the care of Lisa, my therapist at the Oasis Center. I told Mother and she stated, "I knew it." All that time had elapsed and she suspected it all along, but never got me the help I needed. Much suffering could have been avoided or thwarted had intervention been prescribed sooner at her earliest suspicions. I still wonder when she first began to suspect I had been abused, but never contacted me to inquire about it or give me the help I so desperately needed. Some time passed and Mother met Scott. The two hit it off fast, but things took a turn for the worse when domestic violence was introduced to me at the tender age of 8. Contrasted to the loving arms of Granddaddy and Grandmama, Scott was temperamental and mentally unstable. Younger than Mother, it appeared he lacked maturity skills and frequently assaulted Mother in front of us 3 siblings. Mirrors got broken and shattered to pieces on the floor. Curtains drenched in slobber lay torn from the rods, and busted holes in the walls caused our apartment to be filled with embarrassing reminders of domestic violence when it was time to move to another place in the city. I wondered what the neighbors thought. The nearby children living in the same building complex faced me in school, and I could barely make eye contact out of embarrassment at the high noise level of arguing and fighting coming from our apartment. After moving away from Granddaddy's and Grandmama's house, I transferred to 4 different schools: Head Middle Magnet, kindergarten; John Early Middle School, kindergarten; H.G. Hill Elementary, first grade; and Cumberland Elementary, second grade. Little did I know I would change schools nearly every year from kindergarten through 12th grade. This is probably a third reason, besides the incest and domestic violent living environment, and why I had such a turbulent time adjusting to adulthood. In addition, it can also be why I have such a challenging and difficult time making friends and maintaining relationships. Scott's mother moved to the projects in 1985, and we gained ownership of her house on Shelby Street. By the 3rd grade, we children and I went to Mother Goose Daycare Center in Northwest Nashville. I attended Cockrell Elementary because of its location to the daycares before and after school program. I hated it. There was a boy named John who in some sick way liked me, but hit and ridiculed me. Almost daily he insulted and harassed me. Miss Sanders, my teacher, separated me from him in the classroom. Mother and Scott came to the school to file a verbal complaint with the principal, with John present, but the harassment continued. I was forced to endure this hardship for months until Mother decided to have me transferred to Warner Elementary School. What a huge relief. Not only did I not have to return to Mother Goose Daycare Center, but I was within walking distance from Warner Elementary School and enjoyed playing outside in our yard with our golden retriever, Misty. I attended Warner for the latter part of my 3rd grade year and some of my 4th grade school year. Mother became pregnant with twins, and we moved back to my old neighborhood, John Henry Hill Homes. It was here I learned how to take care of 2 babies at once while a 4th grade student at H.G. Hill Elementary School. Little did I know that my summers would be filled with burping, changing diapers, and babysitting. My childhood had not only been stolen from me by my abusive father, but was shortened because I was burdened with the responsibility of child caring at the age of 10 years. As a 5th grade student, I was back at Head Middle School while living in John Henry Hill Homes. A boy from the neighborhood once groped me, but I later took him as a boyfriend. One schoolgirl lamented, "He touched you on the booty and you still want to be his girlfriend?" I could not understand myself. This would be the catalyst for future relationships as well. I had poor taste in men. I did not know how to pick and choose the good ones. Mr. Right was a long way off, and to this day, I wait for him to run into my arms and rescue me.
I'm intrigued. I'm
Listen,
invested now.
I know, me too. Now I
I'm
need to know
like,
the
okay,
rest.
post the link to get this book because I'm invested. I want a copy. Like, I need to know.
Yeah, well, and the title is so great because
Yes,
everyone knows that Nashville's Music City, but nobody, that's all people relate it to. People don't even think like, oh, people have like real lives out there. Like there's actually stuff going on there. They're just like music, music, music. But there's so much more behind the scenes that happens there. So
right.
seeing
They don't
a
understand the
memoir of
struggle.
someone's life is, we gonna get this sold, Toya. Y'all,
Okay.
our goal is to make Toya, not only get some support, but we need to get her out there where people can hear her. People can actually hear her,
Exactly.
not just see her, hear her.
Oh yeah,
Because
I'm
these are
sharing
the kind of
Yes.
books that are
as soon as you
important.
upload it. Yes.
Right. Is there anything else that you want to share, Toya?
No, I just want to leave it up to the readers to purchase the book and read more. There are several different chapters in the book about my life. Of course, I experienced incest, so I define incest.
Mm-hmm.
I was raped when I was about 13 years old
Mm.
by a boy in the neighborhood, so that's Fred and teenage rape. Um, when I was about 18, I ran away from Tennessee to Washington, D.C., and lived there for a while with an aunt. So there's a lot of good things in here that are good things to learn about me and my life, and teaching points to remember.
Yes.
Right. And it's a real life story. So these aren't things, this isn't, a fiction book. And that's the really good part about it is these are real life scenarios. So there's scenarios people are going to run into. Well, I'm super excited. Now, y'all, I will be sharing all of Toya's info tomorrow on the pages. So you'll be able to grab it up, purchase her book, and not only show her support, but show the support for real writers out here that are actually out here doing it. These are the faces of the real writers. We're not out here writing Harry Potter. Sheena hates Harry Potter, y'all. That's why I
I
brought that
love
up.
it. You
So
have to see my post today. 'Cause, yes, I do. But yeah.
um because those are like streamlined mainline, those aren't writers that are writing from the heart. All of my future books are sci-fi and everybody kind of knows that about me now. But my first two books were the same as Toya's. These are books that are written from the heart. They are things that we actually went through and had to deal with. And that's why they're so important, especially in a society today where people are forgetting the grasp on reality. And
Yes,
someone needs to talk to these teenagers, man.
they
But with
really
that
do.
being said, it looks like we are moving on.
To Lily's
Look at my
face.
look at my lights. There we go. There we go. There's the light.
I guess that's my cue to go.
That's Sheena's cue.
Well, a little bit. Well, y'all already know about me, but I'll tell y'all a little bit about me as a author standpoint.
Sheena, just really quick, I just want to say
Uh-huh.
we already have some people in the Facebook comments that said right after I was saying that about Toya that they're looking forward to supporting. So the support
Oh
is
yeah,
coming, Toya. We're coming.
Oh, thank you.
yes, yes. Your book sounds amazing, and I can't wait to
Mm-hmm.
purchase it so I can read it. I believe that more people, everybody needs to read it, needs to hear about it, and we need to
Mm-hmm.
push it out there.
Yeah, we're gonna get it out there for you.
Yes, 'cause a lot of people need to know that they're not alone. Like, and they got support, and that's
Mm-hmm.
a big movement. Y'all who follow us know that that's one of my biggest movements. To let people know that you are not alone. Um, and I like to encourage people. That's what really has started me with Lily's Faith. A lot of my stuff is in a Lily's Faith. It is a fiction book. But a lot of my feelings are into it. It's my first fiction novel that I released, and it's my little baby. I mean, I am so proud of this book. It is about. I'm gonna just let y'all know a little bit about it. A little bit about me. People who know me knows I'm a real realist. And I don't like to sugarcoat a lot of things. I just give it to you raw. But I do like. I write about real life experiences experiences. That's why, like Amanda just said, that I don't like Harry Potter, but I am intrigued to read her sci-fi. But I just listen. We have a little bit of stuff that's not real life we can indulge in, but don't get lose sight of reality. Okay, we got to be reality. But I do like to write about real life experiences to let people know that they are not alone, because a lot of people struggle. And just like what Amanda was reading when she was talking about suicide and her mental health, like people fight those battles by themselves alone a lot. I fought my battles alone growing up. I battled with mental health, battled with sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse going through my life, and I battled it alone. That's what most geared this movement that I'm starting and pushing this year too, that you are not alone. I want to let people know they're not alone. And that's kind of really started the story of Lily's faith, is letting people know that they are not alone in a situation. So I'm going to read a little blurb about Lily's faith before I read it. My expert. Here we go. In a tragic tale of having to figure out the end of adolescence, feeling completely alone, a young woman in her depths of despair realizes that her faith may just be one thing that she can still save. Journey with Lily on her walk of faith in this inspiring realistic story. So it is a realistic story about a girl, a teenager girl who goes through a life trauma experience with losing her mother, and then she's forced to go live with other family members, but she's forced to. There's an eye opener about how life is not as it seemed, because while she was living with her mother, she was in the, I would guess, this fairy tale life of bliss and happiness. But once her mom died, she's really been forced into a life that a lot of us has experienced with dealing with abuse and things like that. But she goes through trials and tribulations. I said that word wrong, but y'all know I can't pronounce words, but it's okay. But she goes through trials and things, but she fights her battles, and you just have to read it. Okay, so I'm gonna read an excerpt from the book.
What page?
I'm gonna read two parts. I'm gonna start in the beginning in chapter 1, and then I'm gonna jump to chapter 11, and then I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about my new project that's dropping in this year. I'm just gonna say this year. It's gonna be releasing this year, but it's a new project. I'm gonna tell you about after I read it. Okay. So chapter 1 is the love of my mother, Lily. I hear mom call from the kitchen. It must be time for dinner. I place my dolls down on my bed and head out of my room. I could still smell dinner cooking from the hallway. Mom was frying chicken. You can always tell when she cooks fried chicken. The smell will go all over the house. You can smell the seasoning and grease she used when she always cooked. I love Mom's cooking, especially her fried chicken. Dinner is one of my favorite times of the day because we would spend quality time together, laughing and talking about everything from school to boys, even if I didn't want to talk about it. Mom always made me feel comfortable telling her anything, so I would tell her everything that happened at school and dish it out over dinner. She is always there for me, and I love the attention she gives me. Mom is a beautiful woman. Her light brown complexion glowed so gracefully. She has gorgeous hazel eyes that I swear would twinkle every time she smiles at me. She always kept her hair in curls that would drop around her face perfectly. Mom wasn't big or small. She was an average woman with a great personality and a big heart. After spending just a few minutes in her presence, anyone would want her as their best friend. I know she is my very best friend, and I look forward to seeing her every day. Wash your hands, it's time to eat, Mom said. I heard I head to the bathroom to clean up for dinner. Mom never played about messing around in the kitchen with unclean hands. I smiled at the thought of Mom fussing when Dad would head straight to the pot before cleaning his hands first. He should have known by now how that burns her up. I sit down at the kitchen table as mom has already set the table. It's a simple meal tonight as dad is still out on the road, but it's the simplest meals that I love. Mom whipped up some chicken wings and fries with dinner rolls. She made it seem like as if we were at a diner. Mom always made mealtime special. Thanks, Mom. Dinner looks as if it came from Miss Hannah's diner, but I know it tastes a lot better. I giggled. She laughed too. Thanks, sweetie. A woman must know her way around the kitchen. You will soon learn that as you get older. It's about time you spend more time in the kitchen, Mom said as she smiled over at me. I wasn't too fond of kitchen work. My dream was to be my own boss, doing something I wasn't sure of just yet. I would hire people to do kitchen work. I don't like kitchen work, Mom. I plan to have someone else do the cooking and cleaning, I said to her. Mom just shook her head. Even so, Lily, you still must know how to cook for yourself. You can't be dependent on others, Mom said with sincerity. I guess she was right. I just shrugged my shoulders and reached up for the ketchup. It was time to eat before the fries get cold. Mom was a brilliant woman as I valued her. She always knew what to say and when to say it, but she was my very best friend. I love everything about her. Mom worked as a secretary at a law firm part-time in the morning, so she was always there to pick me up from school, and we would spend the rest of the day together. I love our life. Dad was gone most of the time as he drove trucks, but he will be home on the weekends. But he will be home on some weekends, and we will have the best family moments. In my eyes, we had a picture-perfect family. If we got a puppy, that would be the cherry on top, I thought to myself. I I wonder if I could get Mom's approval for a new puppy. My mind is always wandering. After dinner, I got up. I got washed up and waited for in bed for Mom to tuck me in. It was always the last memorable moment of the night. Just as I thought about what bedtime story I would have Mom read to me, she peeked her head in the door. Ready for bed, sweetheart? She said. I smiled as always. Yep. What's on the book menu for tonight? I asked. Mom laughed as she pulled the book from behind her back. I caught a glimpse of the book cover and knew it was a magic school bus book. I just love those books. Mom brought every book that came out in that series, and I just love it when she read them to me. I pulled the covers up and got comfortable. It did not matter if Mom had read it before or not. I just loved to hear her voice. It's so soothing. It just puts me right to sleep. Off I go as I feel my eyes getting heavier. Sleep sure has won this battle. That's the beginning stories that she shares, how she really loves her mother. So you can imagine like the trials she begins to brace as she deals with that loss. I'm gonna skip this time to chapter 11, which is a little more halfway through the book, and give you a little expert on how she's doing. I rolled over in the bed and noticed the sun coming through the windows. I knew it was Saturday morning. Time to get up, I thought. I wanted to see Grandma Hattie today. I first reached for the phone and called Hope and tell her about last night. She answered right away. Good morning. I wonder when you would call me. I started to worry when you didn't call me last night. Did your date go okay? She asked. I sighed at the thought of how the night ended with my dad trying to play the fatherly role. Yes, I had a great time with Kelvin while we were out. I told her everything that happened at Applebee's and how he was a gentleman the whole time. It wasn't until I got back home when the night turned sour, I said. My dad was waiting for me on the front porch when Kelvin pulled up. I told Hope how Dad acted because Kelvin didn't get out of the car to speak. She shocked she shocked me when she agreed with Dad. Wait, Hope, you agree with that? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Yes, Lily, Kelvin should have introduced himself to your dad. That would have been the proper gentleman thing to do, Hope said. I wasn't thinking that way. The way Dad treated me growing up, why would I have Kelvin introduce himself to him? That's nonsense. Well, I don't think Kelvin needed to go that far. Dad doesn't deserve all that, I said, dismissing the whole idea altogether. I talked with Hope for a few more minutes. And then I said I needed to get up and get going if I wanted to catch a ride with Aunt Claire to see Grandma Hattie. I hung up with Hope and immediately called Aunt Claire. Then I got showered and dressed to wait for her to pull up. I looked out of the front window when she pulled up so I can saw her arrive. I walked out of the house and got in the car with her. "Hey, Aunt Claire," I said as I got into the front seat. "Hey, sweetie, how are you?" I told her I was okay, not wanting to discuss anything about Dad or Calvin. I reached for the radio to turn it on so I wouldn't have to conversate with her. Once we arrived at the nursing home, I went straight to see Grandma Hattie. Aunt Claire always stops at the nurse's desk for an update and requests to speak with the doctor, if necessary. "Good morning, Grandma Hattie. How are you feeling today?" I asked as I sat in the chair next to her bed. "I'm doing fine, child. How are you? Or should I ask, how was your date last night?" she said to me. I rolled my eyes, thinking Dad sure didn't take much time running his mouth. "I know you ain't rolling those eyes at me," Grandma Hetty said. "No, ma'am. I'm just frustrated with Dad, thinking he can come back and act like he hasn't been gone for 5 years. He is taking this father and daughter thing too far because I do not want any parts of it. Why does he keep pushing for this father-daughter relationship?" I asked. During my rant, Aunt Claire walked into the room. She spoke before Grandma Hattie could answer. "No matter what he has done or hadn't done, Lily, at the end of the day, he is still your father and still deserves some respect," Aunt Claire stated. "I don't understand how I can show him respect even after all he has done." And I'm going to stop right there and let y'all find out what happened. So, yeah.
And I will tell you, as someone that personally read her book, it definitely takes you on a turn you're not prepared for. Your brain is like, okay, I kind of know what this book's about, and then something happens that makes you go, oh, I didn't know what this book is about. And I love it. So please, like I said, go out and support these people. But Sheena's not done because she's currently working on a project, aren't you?
Yes, it is a good page turner. I will be posting. I have some reviews on the book that we posted to my website. So, I do have. Just follow me on that website. You see my new project. You see the reviews on the book. There's also a link to purchase the book if you want an autograph copy. I do have them that I'm having released separately. But yes, I do have another project. I also have been working on poetry for a while. Since my teenage years, poetry is like my first love. I just recently got into working with novels. But as growing up, I always was into writing poetry, short stories, but how I released my feelings just like Amanda was writing through my poetry. So I will be releasing a book, my first book, a poetry book called Inner Thoughts. I'll be releasing that shortly this year. I'm just going to say this year. I don't have an exact date yet, but it will be coming out this year. It's called Inner Thoughts Volume 1, and it's a collection of my poetry, some that I wrote when I was a teenager, some that in my early 20s, and some really recently. I just put them all into a collection, and I'm going to release it for you guys. So I am going to read a few poems from the book to give you an idea. Let me see. I'm going to start with. I'm going to see which one I'm going to start with. I want to start with this one. It's called Mental Reality. Battling demons that many don't understand. The demons not in your heart. They're not in your soul. They are attached to your brain, lurking in your mind. The demon anxiety, it keeps you stressed. The demon depression, it keeps you hopeless. Both together makes you helpless. Don't want to eat, can't really sleep. Everyone is mad with you because you just can't get over it, which just makes you feel worthless. Don't want to go out, can't concentrate. Every day is a struggle, a reminder, the demons at play. The battle you're losing, you're always irritable, sometimes reckless, physically in pain. Many don't understand your mental reality. And that was a poem that I wrote for mental health. And it stems from like my thoughts about mental health, how people don't understand, because like my battle with, cause I know who knows me, who follow the podcast knows that I battle since my early childhood with anxiety and depression. So I really want to write that poem because people don't understand like when you're in that place, how helpless it makes you feel. So I wanted to read that, just trying to shed a light to that.
Absolutely.
The second one I'm going to read is one called Missing You. Missing you is a never-ending pain, a feeling I have deep down inside. It never seems to go away. I will always miss you. I remember all the happy memories we created. You were my best friend. In fact, you were my one and only. I will always miss you. There is a never-ending sadness in my life. I fear this feeling will never go away. I want you back in my life, even though I know you are gone forever, heaven bound. But you will forever remain in my heart, on my mind. I will always miss you. And I wrote that poem because there are some key people in my life that was my savior, my saving grace. Even though I didn't talk about my abuse growing up, I just dealt with it. But it was like a few people, like my grandparents, that I just held to, and that I would go to their house because that was my safe haven, that my safe spot, and I just knew I can just lay down, and go to sleep, and I won't be bothered. So when they passed and I went to heaven bound, I just like broke my heart. So I wrote that poem, just like letting them know, the key people in my life that I really, really miss, that it touched my heart. I'm gonna do one more, and this one is just a poem about love. So I want to end it on a good high note about falling in love.
We all love to do that.
Yes,
Everyone loves love.
yes, we all love to fall in love. And this is one of my most recent poems that I wrote about love recently. Okay, it's called Falling. And y'all can probably attest that, because I know everybody has that moments that they fall in love. So it's called Falling. He came in and stole my heart. Now I'm driving myself crazy, wondering if he feels the same. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. My brain keeps me up at night, thinking, wandering, praying. Can we be more? Sex buddies, just friends. Should I leave him alone? Or allow myself to fall into him, fall into love? Every time I close my eyes, I see his handsome face. He's looking at me with those big, beautiful green eyes. And I just want to be his everything. Because he is the only one I want, the only one I need. His smile invades my heart. My mind starts thinking of him. His eyes pierce my soul. My heart begins craving for him. His touch warms my skin. My body starts yearning for him. I'm sorry, y'all. If he is happy, I'm happy. If he is hurt, I'm hurting. If you don't like him, then I don't like you. Don't play with him, because I'm not playing. I'm not going to play with you. I'm falling too hard, too fast. He is the last thing I think about when I close my eyes at night. The first thing I think about when I wake in the morning. I pray for him. Lord, keep him safe. Protect him. Show him to his purpose. Lift him up. Keep him strong. Make him happy. I'm scared of love, to drop my guard, leave from behind my wall. I ask myself, will he hurt me, betray me? Will he keep me safe, protect me? Can he be mine forever? I keep him. He keeps me. Should I allow myself to fall into him, fall into love? So that,
and for those of you that don't know, that poem's about me. Do I have green eyes? We're gonna pretend I have green eyes.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend. They're kind of bluish, but they're bluishly green, maybe.
They're nowhere near green. It's okay. I guess the poem's not about me. It's probably about Toya. I was really hoping it was about me, though.
Yeah, but I do love you, though.
Listen, but that poem was a very, like, aw. Because
Yeah.
we've all experienced it at one point or another. I mean,
Right.
not
It
me,
was
because I'm a
like,
gangster, but, I'm
yes,
just
it just
kidding,
makes you
y'all.
feel like you can fall in love, even after, tragedy, because I wrote
And
that
you
after my divorce
can.
and when I started dating again.
And
So I was
listen,
like,
love looks
you
different
can.
for everybody, because I can tell you, if me and my current partner don't work out, I'm getting more dogs, because dogs are loyal and they love the crap out of you when you come home from work. Um, and
Oh,
Katie
yeah,
has
me
taught
too.
me that. Like, ain't no man gonna meet you at the door the way that a freaking dog does. I don't care what nobody says. That dog be happy
No.
to see you even when you yell at them as you're leaving.
And they
And
love
they don't
treats.
mess up your house too bad when you're at work, as long as you train them right. Um,
I'm with you. I would be getting like 16 dogs, so I won't feel alone.
I don't want to be your neighbor anymore if you're gonna have 16 dogs. um, so I want to end tonight as positively as we can. However, Sheena and I do need to release a little bit of news. And to do that, I want to explain. Many of you know across our platform that I have been struggling medically, and that something's going on with me. Y'all know that I've been sick for like 2 years. They couldn't figure out what was going on. Well, they figured out the first part of what's going on. I have something called hypogamma aminoglobulinemia.
Say that
So,
real fast.
right. Yeah, no, I can't. I've been practicing it for like 3 days so I could say this. So more or less, it means I don't have the immunoglobulins in my blood to fight infections. So if I get sick, I just stay sick unless they give me an antibiotic or something, and then it only helps sometimes. So I have to start getting these infusions that are going to make me a little bit sick, and they're supposed to help over time, for me to get better, to find out what's caused this in my life. Because there is another something that has caused this to happen. We just have to find it. With that being said, tonight's evening podcast is our last evening podcast for a while. Now, we still will do random evening podcasts for special events and things like that. However, our morning podcast, Coffee with the Maries, will still be on every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. This was not an easy choice to make, but for the sake of my health, we have to put our evening podcast on pause for a while, because I need that time to recoup and rest. I'm sorry, y'all. I am tearing up. I promise I'm not a baby. This is just the first time I'm having to really talk about this openly. I've been very to myself
Girl.
about my medical stuff for a really long time. So I am crying like a little crazy person.
And I'm smiling to stop from crying. Okay? 'Cause you're
I'm okay. But it was really important that we had this virtual reading, because it was important to both me and Sheena to share our books with y'all. We were really excited when Toya decided that she was going to come on and share too. We're going to blast all that information out to everybody. And Yin Yang the podcast's pages will still be up, because Coffee with the Maries, of course, is sponsored by Yin Yang the podcast. So, of course, all the information will still go to the same page. You may see a little bit of changes. And like the logo and things like that as we move forward with Coffee with the Maries and current events. But should anybody ever need anything, or if anyone ever wants us to come on their podcast, me and Sheena would be more than happy to be able to do that. And with that being said, tonight was a phenomenal event. Thank you so much for joining us, Toya. We
Yes,
so
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
so
And
much.
we will definitely make sure that we get those supporters on your page. And I will be reaching out to you next week a little bit with some more information for you, because I absolutely love what you've written so far. So I can only imagine how great the rest of the book's going to be. So with that
Yes.
being said, though, y'all, you got anything you want to share, Sheena?
I just want to tell Toya, yes, I will get your direct contact information from Amanda. I'm gonna follow you on the page. Actually, I'm going to send you some information as well because I am doing some things for new authors as well that's in the future. So definitely want you to be aboard with that because I love your work. I can't wait to read your book in full. I'm super intrigued about it. So I think it's amazing, and I'm definitely on Team Toya and pushing your book series. I love it.
Team
love it, love it. And I
Toya,
just want
Team
to say
Toya,
it's been
Team
an
Toya. I like
awesome,
the way that sounds.
yes, Team Toya, Team Toya. We're gonna love it, love it. And I wanted to say I'm just so invested, and I don't know what to do. I don't know what I'm gonna do until the book comes in the mail. I really want to read it. Like, I really, I'm so super invested, and I know everybody is going to be invested into. So,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
Oh,
so
of
much.
course, Toya, anytime. And if you're ever really bored on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m., we do Coffee with the Maries. You're more than welcome to come on and make fun of the news with us. You got the link now. It's the same link. So you got the link.
Okay.
So with that being said, y'all, I want you all to have a wonderful night. We will see you all next, Saturday morning at 8 a.m. for current event Coffee with the Maries.
And more talk about the water people.
Yes, and more talk about the water people. Until then, we are just two people.
Two opinions.
Real talk. Y'all have a good night.
Good night, y'all.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.